Hi, welcome to Dear Art Producer. I am your host, Heather Elder. Today is Thursday, June 25th, and in an effort to share some different perspectives during this unprecedented time, I have invited Doug Menuez and Lynda Goldstein to be my guests today. Doug is an award-winning, incredible photographer on our roster, and Lynda is a freelance producer that so many people in both advertising and entertainment have come to rely on. Doug and Lynda collaborated on a project to prove that they could produce authentic visual storytelling without compromising images or safety. They did this while following strict CDC mandated safety guidelines with PPE and social distancing. The result was a beautiful photo essay complete with video of two boys in quarantine. Welcome.
Thank you, Heather. So good to be here.
Hi, Lynda. Hi, Doug. It's really awesome to have you both here. And I'm finally on your same coast. I like being on the same time zone with you.
I know. I almost feel like taking advantage of just calling you because I can at the morning hour.
On the West Coast, I always feel like I wake up behind. And on the East Coast, I feel like I have all this time in the morning to get all my work done. But then, of course, come dinner time, I feel like I'm behind. So I don't think there's really any winning unless we were all on the same time zone. So.
I think no matter how you look at it, we have long days in this business.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. Well, I'd love to just kind of get right into it and kind of address the first question to you, Doug. You know, you're known obviously for traveling the world, and you capture those everyday moments that connect our culture and remind us of our shared humanity. And like, what a better time than now of us all recognizing that we have this shared humanity. It's completely unprecedented, of course. So I'd love to hear a little bit about this project and how it speaks to our world and how we're all connected right now.
Well, I think we're all going crazy with the lockdown. And of course, that states are opening and we're seeing, crazy results. It's a roller coaster. But during the time when we started planning this, it was day 56 for these two brothers, these beautiful boys who have a great relationship that are the subjects that I shot. And, they're sharing this experience together. It's sort of like my wife says, alone together. Everyone is going through this lockdown in their own way. And it's very stressful for everyone to be locked down. But we found that everyday life does go on for all of us in our own ways, and we all adapt. Kids are awesome at adapting. And that's the other thing we found in documenting day 56. We called it sheltering. But, for me, I was dying to get out and shoot. So we followed the protocols and we made it happen.
And how did it feel to be shooting again?
I was so happy. It was a relief. It was hard because, I was sweating, and with the mask, it's not easy. Luckily, I had experience with that over the years, shooting in refugee camps in Africa with virulent diseases or in surgery in hospitals. But, when you're running down the lawn chasing two active 12-year-old boys with a mask on, it's very different. But I was so happy just to be pressing the shutter, to be honest.
Well, Lynda, as a producer, you've had to spend your time over the last few months getting up to speed on what the future of production will look like. And we all know it's no small task. So what sort of things did you do to prepare yourself for not only this shoot, but really any shoot, really?
Well, the first thing that I needed to do was prepare myself because it was scary. I was entering something that I had never done before. And, doing this for so many years, I walk into every production now, bringing my skill set to the table and knowing how I need to adapt and what is going to change and what I have a solution for. And with this, it was my first time. So I felt scared. It's like, wait a second, can I do this? Is this out of my skill set? But I reminded myself that in reality, we've done this all before, meaning adapt. As a producer working directly with clients and agencies and creatives, our skill sets are really based on finding solutions. So my job now is taking all the newly learned safety policies and protocols and seamlessly working them into the creative image making process that we're all used to and anxious to get back to. And this shoot really confirmed that we are capable of creating content now following the safety practices that we know work and we need to implement not only in our personal lives, but once they become comfortable in our personal lives, which they have, it's just second nature to bring it onto our sets.
Yeah, thanks for being such a pioneer.
Heather, can I just jump in for a second?
Of course,
I
yeah.
have to say, I wish I could tell you this was my idea, but it's totally Linda's. She called me one day. I was kind of wondering what was going to happen in our world. And she called and said, "We have to do a shoot." I was like, "Okay, really? What?" And she began researching the CDC protocols, and we came up with this. And she found the boys, and it was just really, really cool. And I'm really grateful, Linda, that you did come up with this and call me.
Absolutely. I needed to produce. I needed to work, and I needed to put my fears aside and know that, I can get out there and be, the collaborative part of a photo shoot and ease people's, fears and frustrations and feeling like we've never done this before, because we have.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great point. This idea of having a dress rehearsal is so important because it does feel new and it does feel different. But as you point out, the reality of it is once you do it, it's not new or different. You're looking for a solution, and you were able to prove to yourselves that you could get great content even within the safety protocols.
That was my first thought was, well, I know how to do this. But then I realized, no, really, this is a new thing. We're going to have everyone on the set with social distancing. There's all these requirements, and it's life or death, possibly, for someone. We had to treat everyone like they were asymptomatic, of course. But for me, it was what you just said, Heather. I had to prove to myself that I could pull it off and make pictures that I was proud of, because we were also hearing from different people in the industry that they weren't so sure it could be done. And in terms of documentary, running and gunning, capturing real moments, that's a lot harder than in many ways than just doing a portrait or something you can control, like in a studio doing products. This is random real life stuff. How do you get that done? And I think people were rightly skeptical. And so I think both of us had to prove to ourselves that we could make it happen, so we could tell our clients with a clean conscience, yeah, we can do this.
That's great. And I am hearing, of the few estimates that we're getting and the clients that I'm talking to, they are asking, have your photographers done this before? And it's great to have this, to be able to go back to them and say, yes, we've done this and here's what we've learned.
Wow.
I do think, so much from what I'm hearing from you guys and other photographers and rep friends and people in the industry is, how important pre-production is right now. It's just key. Every detail needs to be worked out before you get on set. I keep saying the choreography needs to be worked out beforehand. Lynda, what were the important aspects of pre-production for you on this shoot?
Absolutely. Communication. Production differences now are firstly all about communication. It's more important now than ever. Once Doug and I had the creative in front of us and we worked through the creative from the world that we knew before COVID, pre-COVID, then we were able to go down the path of excitement to bring this to life. And the more that we talk about the realities around the concepts, the easier each of those concepts were able to be executed on set. So communication really, there's no point that's too soon to talk about our shoots right now. And that's going to help us put all the production safety supports in place, make sure that we're in the right space for the concepts that we need to capture, make sure that we have enough additional resources, whether that be drivers or reconsidering a location or a studio because it doesn't have enough space, or maybe it has too much space, making it difficult on that level. But it's all about communication. And we found that the more that we talked about each shot and what we needed to bring to the creative process, the easier on set that shot was when we had more talk about it in advance.
How about you, Doug? What were the important parts of pre-production for you? And was it any different than it normally is?
It was totally different from pre-cleaning the cameras and all the equipment, making sure everything was sanitized and that we had all our PPE gear. We had our hand wipes and our, just the sanitizing stuff and everything. This was a transition time also away from gloves, where people were saying, yeah, the gloves were nice, forget the gloves. You're going to have to just keep washing your hands, and we enforce that on the set. But in terms of my pre-production, it was like figuring out the choreography, what you said. Where is the digital tech going to be? How far? I mean, I have to figure out how to get the memory card from the camera to the digital tech. They can't come and take it out of my camera. I have to do that and bring it to a place that they're not in. And these are sections blocked off, 6 feet stations that we create on set where we can go drop the memory card. I load a new memory card myself. And certain things I'm doing much more of. I'm carrying my own cameras and so forth. So it was just working out in my head how each step would move. If I need this lens, if I have to go here and do that, what do we do? And so we worked out these handoffs where I would step in, drop something, they would come in, pick it up, and it just worked out great. Once we had it all talked through, it worked out really well.
Well, and how important, it just hearing you talk through this, it just sounds like, you want to do this for the first time on your own time. You don't want to do this for the first time on your client's time.
So true. You're so right. And, I'm the kind of person where I like to go out and use a brand new camera that's never been used before on a money shoot because I like pressure. But you know what? This is what you're saying is absolutely right. We had to do this. We had to work it out. My background as a photojournalist, you're used to being, dropped into some place 6,000 miles away from home and figuring it out. I like that. But in advertising, there's so much pressure and so much is on the table, so much involved. It has to be as real as photojournalism, but the budgets are so much higher. There's so much money. People's jobs are on the line. So yeah, we like to have backups for our backups, as we always say. And this rehearsal that we did, and we've done 2 shoots. We did this in 2 parts. We haven't finished editing the video part, but I'm so glad we did this. I am so glad.
Who was on set with you, Lynda?
We had the talent, of course. We physically on set, the talent, the parents of the talent. We had Doug's team, which was an assistant and a digitech and a first camera operator, DP.
He did both the digital tech and DP for this.
So no hair and makeup, no wardrobe, anything like that?
No. What we did for hair and makeup and wardrobe was we had a Zoom pre-shoot call to go over the shoot plan with the boys, which also gave them a general overview of wardrobe. And then what we did was we had a second call with the boys where they presented their choices based on the call that we had with them. And from the choices that they brought to us through the call, we then picked our favorites, and we did a Zoom fitting in advance, and then on the shoot day it all worked great. And it was fun because they were, they kind of got to see, the build up to the shoot. So by the time that we were all together, they kind of understood the importance of all the different steps, which is what we go through typically with our clients. We do this anyway. So we maintain the same practices that we're going to need to use on a shoot. Once we get out there again, we used all of that in the test that we did, in the COVID safety test that we did. And it worked great. And it was a great kickoff for the boys before we arrived.
But also, I would just say, Lynda, one of the benefits of that, Heather, was these boys were invested in the shoot in a way that most talent kids are difficult. I let them drive my shoots. I don't try to say, smile, damn it. I let them be who they are and make it fun for them. But in this case, it was even added bonus because they were already thinking about it in a completely different way. They were collaborators. They were given much more authority and agency than the typical kid talent. So that was a really interesting bonus because they really gave their all.
That's such a great point, because so much of what we're all tasked to do is create an environment on set so that these authentic moments can happen, and then you can capture them. So if you're bringing these boys or talent or whomever into the process sooner, and giving them agency and letting them collaborate with you, I would think that would pay off in dividends on set.
Well, they improvised. They gave me what I needed. It was really real.
Go ahead, Lynda. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to say they really had no issues with our protocols and policies that we need to bring into our work world, because they're practicing social distancing and they're practicing safety already in their life. So, what they felt was what happened overnight to my life? Why am I living like this? All of a sudden, it gave them a little bit of a sense of importance, and they were proud that they were able to be on set and give us what we needed, because they've been working so hard at safety already, and all of a sudden that was being rewarded. And that's not something that you see that often when you're a young kid.
Yeah. Now, how about your crew, Lynda? Was your crew following protocol easily? Was it hard for them to social distance? Did they forget? Like, what were some of the, were there any challenges with that?
There were challenges because it's all new to us. Our crew, I think, with every set, with ours and all sets going forward, we have to trust our crew. We have to trust that they understand the importance of safety first. The only way that we're going to succeed moving forward into working again the way we know it is to trust our crew. We don't want any cowboys on set. We don't want anybody pretending that this is important. We handpicked our crew. Of course, it's a team that Doug is very familiar with, has long history working together. I know his team. They trusted me. I trusted them. We were all there to deliver for Doug and for the creative output. Were we tripping over a little bit here and there? Not physically because we were apart from each other, but yeah, we're kind of like, well, who moves in now and who moves to move back? So it was kind of a little bit of a funny dance, but because there was the trust factor there, we all knew that our mistakes are okay and we're learning from it. And this is, our skill set is evolving. So were we a bit clumsy at times? Yes, we were. Will we be clumsy again? Probably. But we knew that we were safe within our tripping over each other from a distance.
Do you find that when, this question may be for you, Doug, when you start to add more players on set, do you think it will get exponentially harder, or do you think having more people on set will be a strong reminder of how important it is to stay apart and social distance? And
This is a really important question because in my mind, from this experience, the tighter you can keep it, the easier it's going to be. And, you have to have someone monitoring everyone. There has to be eyes on everyone all the time. There has to be someone reminding everyone to wash their hands every period. But looking out to the future of a full-on advertising production, there are different ways to handle this with color coding, armbands, and different segmented areas. I think, and for us, by the way, we're practicing live casting because we know the shoots we're bidding right now, that's the key factor. The clients don't want to come. They don't want to be exposed or take that risk in terms of traveling. And it's one of the beauties of where we are in the Hudson Valley because we have so many resources here and there's a lot less risk here.
a lot of space.
Yeah, we have a lot of space. I just think you've got people doubling up on jobs now, so that's not great because you're using less people that need to work. But at the same time, the more people that are there, it's exponentially a little bit. It's more complicated to keep track of everything.
I was talking about a production coming up that is going to necessitate more than just the handful of people. And the one thing that I think is going to help when we move forward into larger teams is just to break your teams down. We all know the 5 to 10 person policies and protocols and abilities. And if you double that to 20 people, obviously in a space that is safe for 20 people, you break it down again. So instead of looking at it as 20 people on set, we have 2 teams of 10 or we have 4 teams of 5. And if you break it down that way, when you're communicating in advance to being on set, you'll see that the same situations that were successful when we only had 5 to 7 to 10 people on set, we are going to maintain that success as our shoots grow and as our crews grow.
That's great. That's fantastic. I love thinking about that way. Doug, earlier you said something about, you need somebody on set to tell you to wash your hands and remind you to social distance. I know a lot of producers are, and clients and brands and everyone is talking about having not only a medic, but even a compliance person on set. How important do you think that is? Is that kind of you have to have that person?
I would feel much more comfortable if the budget would allow to have a compliance person just gently nudging people and reminding people periodically, bringing hand sanitizer to an area where people are working if needed. But, our plan would be to have stations for hand sanitizer and other things around. There's a lot of back stuff that we haven't talked about. Like prior to a shoot, you'd want to have a document sent out with our policies and protocols and have everybody agree to be on board. And, they got to be able to wear a mask and believe in that and so forth. But I think it's really important to have an extra pair of eyes, it can be a PA. But, having a medic on set, I don't know. I think that's great. And I've had that before in the past on shoots in Asia and other places, or out in the Amazon. I've had a medic because you're far from any treatment. So I've had that. I think it just depends where you're shooting if you really want to have a doctor or a nurse. But somebody with some skill, because we want to do temperature monitoring and so forth, is really important.
I think there aren't broad stroke answers to something like this. It's almost like, how do you produce a shoot? And I don't think that there is a clear answer on who is needed on set. I think that we need to look at every single production and every single shoot and assess the situation and figure out the time and attention and crew that is going to be needed to keep this a safe set. I think we need to be very careful with blurring the lines between crew and safety coordinators. I have been able to thankfully get my production safety certificate, and it allows me as a producer to kind of have those blurred lines between producer and safety. But I think that we need to look at each shoot from the number of people that are there, the location where we're shooting, from the creative that needs to be captured, and figure out the people that need to be there without compromising safety on any level, and being careful not to put too much into, our PA's pockets as far as safety goes. And I think it's probably money well spent to make sure that the eyes on safety, those eyes aren't on anything else other than safety.
Hearing Lynda, what she just said, it kind of addresses your previous question for me a little bit, because what I do, it may look easy, sort of like snapshots, whatever, but to me, every single authentic, real moment that I get, it's a little miracle. It's like a tiny butterfly that's just, everything in production is designed to crush, because you've got so much tension and worry and fear. We try to make our sets light and have fun, but there's a lot of pressure. But to get a real moment, it has to be natural and candid and just happen and unfold. And I have to be ready, which means I have to be incredibly laser locked, watching my talent, watching and waiting, because that's what you learn as a photojournalist. You learn to wait. You learn this Zen mindset of just being completely present and watching. So knowing that Lynda has a certificate from the CDC and knows and understands all the safety issues, I can take my mind off that and focus on the creative. That's really key for me.
But for Lynda, right, if she has to have that same laser focus in her job as a producer, and then she's also required to be paying attention to safety, right? I think that also speaks to the importance of really having somebody who can be the babysitter of sorts.
Agreed. When we talk about having safety coordinators, safety personnel on set, it is necessary, and it is something that we cannot take for granted. But with that said, as a producer, I certainly have eyes on all departments when we're on set, because by the time we are on location or in studio, when we're actually shooting, I shouldn't have that much more left to do if I did my job properly. I always say my least busiest days of a production are the days on set, because that's when everybody else comes in and does their jobs. So a producer is kind of monitoring the overall set to begin with the day of the shoot. So yes, I can share my eyes and my attention on safety, but to not have safety personnel, somebody that's there specifically for safety in this day and age, I think that we need to make sure that that person is there.
Yeah, I agree. Backing up a little bit, you guys mentioned earlier that you did a second day of shooting that included video. Was there anything different that you needed on set for motion, or did it all kind of unfold the same way in this situation?
We did video on the first day, but we wanted to get different aspects of the property and of the grounds and different activities. And also we wanted to elaborate a little bit on the video with using a Movi and some other stuff.
So there wasn't much different. You didn't have different cast of characters or anything.
No.
It just kind of ended up being the same. So Doug, you and I talk a lot about, when we're kind of talking about your work and your vision for your work, we talk about this idea that you always explore topics that speak to our shared fates. And I've always loved how you've said that they're the ones that show the richness of the in-between, of the emotions and the aspirations and the conflicts. So what was the richness, in between on this shoot? What did the boys teach you?
Well, what I love about what I do is it's not that big a deal, but it's the little interactions that show you what the relationship is and can tell a story. And I just really like little things like a glance, a touch. Yes, I do love to shoot things exploding, and I love action, and I shot sports for 10 years. But really, it comes down to everybody in the world wants to be loved, needs to be in a relationship, and family is so important. So this story for me was really powerful because I'm always exploring how family works and what that means, and maybe because of my own family background. But for me, what I learned was the most important thing was watching these two brothers interact and do stuff, and then they could be totally quiet with each other and just sit side by side as if there was nothing happening, and they were so comfortable with each other's presence, and that spoke volumes about their relationship as siblings, because that can be a pretty brutal relationship in some brothers I know. So I was really impressed by how they'd been raised, how they felt about each other, and they were comfortable enough with each other. They're very different kids and had different styles physically. And so that was really cool to see, just that quiet that, when you're with someone that you truly love and you feel you don't have to say anything. And there's a bond.
I want to build on that just a little bit as we're talking about these boys, if that's okay, because, finding talent before COVID and now is really about bringing the best people to the camera for the creative task at hand. And, during the last few months, we've all been sharing our lockdown stories. And Doug and I, we've been talking to about this shoot before we actually got, on set about the talent, and from conversations with parents and teachers and sports coaches and hearing stories about the children's perspectives of suddenly being at home and everything was normal until one day everything was gone overnight. These boys were perfect for us because they're at such an age where they're trying to make sense of it all, but they're still young enough to give us that kind of on-camera vulnerability naturally. So it was an amazing balance between, yeah, I can do this, I can handle all of this, but also I'm scared and this is new, and am I doing this right? So, the talent really naturally gave Doug, those moments that he so brilliantly finds in every shoot that he does. But with this
Thank you.
being a COVID shoot, their age of, growing up for themselves or thinking that they're at that stage, but also falling back into that vulnerable place that naturally, gave Doug those quiet moments. It was amazing.
Okay, so one almost last question for you guys. There was no client on this shoot, and you didn't have to live stream it. And I understand that, setting up clear communication channels are really important if they were to be on set. How do you see that working?
Well, we've done some shoots where we did that, where we had a camera set up just to give eyes on the action on set. And that would be, using Livecast or something like that. And then also supplementing that, because I think periodically it'd be important for Lynda or someone to be walking around using FaceTime or some other means of giving eyes on set and giving updates as well, because sometimes you can't tell what's going on if you're just looking at a streaming scene. The other thing is the way I work, I like to take breaks and review. I shoot it like it's a short film. And, I call action and there's stuff happens. Sometimes I pretend I'm not even shooting because then I can steal moments. But at any rate, the action unfolds. I'm shooting, I'm covering the action, trying to get the right moment. And then I give everybody a break. We download the downloading hopefully has been going on while I was shooting. This time with COVID, there has to be more of a break. Everything takes a little bit longer. But what I like to do is review online with the clients using Zoom. We can share screens and they can see my favorite selects. They can see the whole shoot. They can see everything right then and there, or we can quickly zoom in on what I think are the best, get feedback, maybe we're off track a little bit. But that way, not only do they have eyes on set while the shoot's unfolding, but then we're in real time going through the shoots just like we would if we were on set. Usually I'll give them an iPad and they can go over and watch the pictures come in. I don't shoot tethered because I'm running and gunning, running around. it would rip the computer off the stand. But this is the next best thing because, well, we use Lightroom Mobile, and the mobile aspect of it is downloading the image files to their phones or their iPad, whatever they want. But this way they can look at the screen that my digital tech is managing. Of course, the digital tech has to step away and we walk over and I would manage that.
It's really interesting. The more and more we talk about how do we work with clients and agency not present. And it brings something to mind for me and for those of us that have been doing this a long time. When we transitioned between shooting from film and Polaroids into digital, we were all scared and we were all concerned. How are we going to do this? How does this work? How are we not going to have a Polaroid? How are we going to have clients and agency hovering over a monitor? And we adapted and we grew into a perfectly new world of shooting with a new form of capture. And I feel like there are some parallels now. How do we go back, which it seems like going backwards, to not having everybody there looking at the monitor with us simultaneously? And what I feel is happening as I'm on set now with our COVID protocols and client and agency not there, we're almost going back a little bit, and the creativity is actually flourishing because as we stumble through, photographers aren't stumbling at all in front of the camera because they're behind the scenes crew, their assistants, their digitech, their producers, and everybody else. As we step back, some magic is really happening that we haven't had the chance to allow to happen because everything was so in our face. So I think that as we're scared and as we're adjusting, we also need to embrace that the stumbling that we're going through right now might actually give us some really great creative moments in capture.
So what do you guys, both of you, think agencies and clients can do now to prepare for what creating content will be like for them in the coming weeks and months?
It's really critical that the agency has to talk the client through all of the concerns that they may have and the unknowns. I think at the end of the day, it always comes down to trust and relationships and also our track record. So I think we're exploring new areas, new territory, but at the same time, we know that our experience is such that, well, I like to say, we have so much experience, we know nothing. It's like we know that if we're calm and everybody is positive on the set and we work together, our experience will allow us to problem solve on the fly. That's the most important thing that we bring, is that confidence. We will work this out. And I think in terms of preparation, the most important thing that I see and I find on any shoot is the client agency relationship.
How about you, Lynda? What do you think they can be doing now to prepare?
Well, again, I think it's communication as far in advance as we can. And as we communicate from, even before a job is awarded, while we're still talking about the creative, is being honest with what we can capture and what we can't, finding solutions for things that seemed like they were a very simple shot in, pre-COVID may not be as simple now, and allowing solutions that may not seem standard, and allowing flexibility and being okay for surprises to happen on set, safe surprises, because that's where the magic is made. And that communication from the beginning and figuring out what could go wrong. If it goes wrong, is it that bad? It probably isn't that bad. And it might just allow our creatives to come up with some, magic moments that we couldn't expect.
Yeah, it's almost like the silver lining here might be the insertion of more creative flexibility.
I think so.
And if we can have that, we might all be pleasantly surprised.
I think so, because if you look at it, comparing it to another part of our industry where we've been very comfortable with, because we need to find comfort right now. Editorial has always worked in a very different fashion. Yeah. Advertising has. And if we look at the success that we have with smaller teams and less time, we might find comfort in the new world of shooting.
I would just say the throwback comment earlier, Lynda, in the days of film, there was so much unknown. If you thought you had the shot, you didn't because the shutter was closed. It's sort of like you had to go process the film. So people took the Polaroid. When you're shooting documentary moments, there is so much that isn't known. They just completely have to trust you and your experience that you're going to deliver the goods. They can approve the Polaroid. Then, you go and really shoot it for real on film. So I think in a way, And we also had drawings. So they would come with a drawing, and that was the approved option, and you'd cover that, and then you just shoot a ton of different variations. And I think that's where I think we're seeing a little bit of an opportunity for some more freedom and trust to happen.
I agree. And I think I would just leave everyone with the idea of how important understanding the teams that you hire, their capabilities and the experience that they've had over the years, and also, in this new environment. So I would encourage anybody listening who's thinking about hiring photographers or directors to, do your homework on figuring out what they've been up to, and make sure you're hiring people you can trust, especially the first couple times around.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, this has been so great. I loved digging in deeper to your project, and I think it's such a beautiful project anyway, and you both did a wonderful job with it, and it's been really special to share it with everyone. So thank you for putting a conversation to it and giving people some insight into what it took to produce. And I hope you guys go have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you, Heather.
Bye.
Bye.